All right, hello everybody. Look who I've got here. I've got Sundered Ant,
Oh,
and as you can see, I've provided a nice little magnifying glass so that you can see him better.
yes, hello everybody. Nice to meet you. It's not every day that you get to stream with a goddess.
Or, with an ant that talks.
Oh, there's a first time for everything.
Yeah, I mean, most times ants just, crawl around and they communicate silently to each other. They're not
Yeah,
very chatty with me.
yeah. Well, maybe we'll learn something about that today.
Yeah, maybe. You thought that he was trapped in a bubble. Should I
No,
move
no
the
bubbles here.
magnifying glass a little? Oh, what happened to my magnifying glass? Oh, is that the wrong
Oh
magnifying
no,
glass? There we go.
what have you done?
Here, does
There we
that look
go.
more like a magnifying glass?
Looks good to me. So, Miss Law, do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
uh, hold on, because Persephone's directing me to do something.
Oh, okay.
Uh, what? Yes? There we go. I was being directed to turn you up without being told that.
Ah, my bad. I'm a very small speaker.
Yeah, apparently I should have provided you with a microphone too.
Yeah, I suppose so.
A little ant-sized microphone.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Uh,
Um. Oh, so everybody, you probably already know Sundered, but in case you don't, you can do exclamation mark collab, and you'll be able to see all the different links for Sundered and a little bit about him too. I should
yeah, I feel
actually,
like I feel like I know everyone in your chat.
you know everybody just in general.
Oh no, I don't.
You're a very social ant. Forget social butterflies.
Ah, shucks.
All right, and I put that in the description too so people can see to do that too. All right. So
Let's. Hmm.
I think you were saying you had something in the
Ah,
beginning,
yes.
right?
I had a little notice here in my ant book. I'm afraid I'm not here on the best of terms, Miss Lotl. As
Uh-oh.
I have come with a lawsuit on behalf of ants.
What?
Yeah, now see, and now a mortal man would be afraid to sue a goddess, but we ants have no abstract fear of death.
I mean, that's true. I've definitely noticed.
But now see, many of us bugs predate humans. We ants first emerged 8 million years ago, sharing common ancestors with bees and wasps. Meanwhile, humans have only been on Earth for roughly 200,000 years. And last month, I saw your World Bee Day stream, where that Mayan goddess told you how Quetzalcoatl used her bees to rescue the bones of humanity from the underworld.
Uh-huh.
But his taking advantage of insects didn't stop there, I'm afraid.
Oh
You see,
no?
yeah, the new humans Quetzalcoatl created were malnourished, having only access to roots and wild game. But then one day, he spotted a tiny red ant carrying a kernel of corn. And no matter how much he questioned or harassed it, the ant wouldn't reveal where he got the corn. So Quetzal transformed himself into an ant and followed it, coming to find a crack at the base of a soaring mountain. And inside there was a treasure trove of all manner of corns, beans, peppers, and other delicious edible plants. So Quetzal informed the other gods, and they broke open the mountain and took all food from the ants for humans.
Oh. Well, that's definitely pretty rude. I mean,
Very rude.
yeah. Man, why does everybody have rude stories about my father?
So now to make up for these crimes, you need to learn about ants today.
Well, I mean, I was already planning to, but okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I would love to learn more about ants. Tell me your ways. Tell me your ways of life.
Yes, I believe we have some videos prepared.
All right. So, are we going to just jump into the very first one then?
Yes, I believe first we're talking about society.
Okay. I can't believe my father keeps having all these weird
Yeah.
stories. Like, surely there's some good ones, right?
Maybe.
Maybe everybody's just out to get him. Very unfair.
Very unfair.
Think about all the things that need to happen for a human settlement to thrive. Obtaining food, building shelter, raising children, and more. There needs to be a way to divide resources, organize major efforts, and distribute labor efficiently. Now imagine having to do this without any sort of planning or higher-level communication. Welcome to the ant colony. Ants have some of the most complex social organization in the animal kingdom, living in structured colonies containing different types of members who perform specific roles. But although this may sound similar to some human societies, this organization doesn't arise from any higher-level decisions, but is part of a biologically programmed cycle. In many species, all the winged males and winged virgin queens from all the nearby colonies in the population each leave from their different nests and meet at a central place to mate, using pheromones to guide each other to a breeding ground. After mating, the males die off, while females try to establish a new colony. The few that are successful settle down in a suitable spot,
These graphics
lose their
are kind
wings,
of
and begin laying eggs, selectively fertilizing some using stored sperm they've saved up from mating.
There's something.
Fertilized eggs grow into female workers who care for the queen and her eggs, build and defend the colony, and forage for food, while unfertilized eggs grow into males whose only job is to wait until they are ready to leave the nest and reproduce, beginning the cycle again. So how do worker ants decide what to do and when? Well, they don't really. Although they have no methods of intentional communication, individual ants do interact with one another through touch, sound, and chemical signals. These stimuli accomplish many things, from serving as an alarm to other ants if one is killed, to signaling when a queen is nearing the end of her reproductive life. But one of the most impressive collective capabilities of an ant colony is to thoroughly and efficiently explore large areas without any predetermined plan. Most species of ants have little or no sense of sight and can only smell things in their vicinity. Combined with their lack of high-level coordination, this would seem to make them terrible explorers. But there is an amazingly simple way that ants maximize their searching efficiency, by changing their movement patterns based on individual interactions. When two ants meet, they sense each other by touching antennae. If there are many ants in a small area, this will happen more often, causing them to respond by moving in more convoluted, random paths in order to search more thoroughly. But in a larger area with less ants, where such meetings happen less often, they can walk in straight lines to cover more ground. While exploring their environment in this way, an ant may come across any number of things, from threats or enemies to alternate nesting sites. And some species have another capability known as recruitment. When one of these ants happens to find food, it will return with it, marking its path with a chemical scent. Other ants will then follow this pheromone trail, renewing it each time they manage to find food and return. Once the food in that spot is depleted, the ants stop marking their return, the scent dissipates, and ants are no longer attracted to that path. These seemingly crude methods of search and retrieval are in fact so useful that they are applied in computer models to obtain optimal solutions from decentralized elements, working randomly and exchanging simple information. This has many theoretical and practical applications, from solving the famous traveling salesman problem to scheduling computing tasks and optimizing internet searches, to enabling groups of robots to search a minefield or a burning building collectively without any central control. But you can observe these fascinatingly simple yet effective processes directly through some simple experiments by allowing ants to enter empty spaces of various sizes and paying attention to their behavior. Ants may not be able to vote, hold meetings, or even make any plans, but we humans may still be able to learn something from the way that such simple creatures are able to function so effectively in such complex ways.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely simple but complex.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for the host,
Oh,
Rian.
thank you. I would like to say that, arguably, humans have more in common with us some ants than they do with chimpanzees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
we
also agree with that,
we
actually.
live in large, complex, cooperative societies numbering millions of people. You look at other vertebrates like fish or herds of bison, and they can reach large numbers for sure, but members don't stick together through generations.
Oops. Let's see. We're talking about society right now, right?
Yes,
Sorry, I don't have the order correct on my slides.
it's all right.
There we go. But yeah, no, I would agree. There's a lot of things that are very similar to between ants and humans and everything. But ants are pretty interesting as well, though. In regards to the different kinds of ants, that like the separation between their tasks and roles and everything.
Mhm.
For a long time, though, people thought that the role of the ant was fixed. So, like, one ant might be a forager ant, one might be a defender, one might be feeding larvae. That it was their destiny. As soon as they were born, they got this role, and that was that. But that's a common misconception, isn't it? They do switch tasks. And it's all because of how they communicate with each other. When they go and interact, they just so happen to understand what needs to happen and what needs to be done, and they work towards the betterment of every ant.
Mm-hmm.
So just like you were saying earlier about how they don't really have this concept of death necessarily. They just have the concept of for the betterment of the collective, basically. So it's pretty interesting.
Speaking of perceptions, I wanted to mention that people popularly think of ants as having a monarchic hierarchy because of the term queen, while our societies are actually more egalitarian. Because there is no one ant acting like a foreman telling the others what to do. Queens don't do that.
Yeah, her role is just to lay eggs. She doesn't.
Instead, we are self organized. We're communicating with each other, seeing what others are doing, and then getting involved.
Yep.
Or, in some cases, not getting involved at all. Because you see, humans have found in some studies of colonies that a large portion of ants won't be doing anything at times, which actually helps with efficiency and prevents traffic.
Wait, so they just kind of chill?
Yes.
They just relax, take a breather?
Yeah, they're just not really doing anything.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I can see how that would help with efficiency, though. If there's so many ants where everybody doesn't have to do something, then that means that that they can basically trade off and take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And just like for humans, everybody kind of needs some downtime to recharge their batteries and everything. Taking some time off of work is helpful. So it would make sense that it would benefit the ants of large colonies that could afford to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. No,
so
you can go first.
why don't we talk a little bit about the different kinds of ants in the colony, though? Because there's the queen. You were mentioning the queen earlier.
Yes.
And so, her role is to just spend her whole life laying eggs. She doesn't give orders or anything like that. She just lays eggs her whole life. And she'll end up laying thousands of eggs during her whole lifetime. And she stays deep inside the ant colony. So she's protected from predators. And tell me, what makes her different from all the other ants? Is there anything that's that stands out about her? She have anything interesting about her looks?
She's quite big.
Okay, so she's
I'll say
big.
that much.
And she also's got wings, right?
Yes.
She also usually has a really long lifespan. So
yes,
I'm not
longer than the others.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. I know you're a grease ant. I don't know how long your lifespan is, but I know that the queen black garden ant. There was one in Idaho that was recorded to have lived for 30 years.
Wow.
In the wild. Yeah, so I was like, whoa, that's a long time for an ant to live. Okay, so there's the queen, right? But then there's also drones, and those are the male ants who only exist to go and mate with the queen. And you don't ever really find them outside the colony because they tend to just die after they end up, mating and stuff.
Except for me.
Except for you, because you are a special ant.
Yes.
Hi, Reezy. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for following. And hi, Koichi. And Mary. Welcome. Yeah, so we talked about the queen, the drones. Then there's worker ants. And so the different worker ants are actually females. But unlike the queen, they don't lay eggs. But they're the ones who do all the heavy lifting. They do the whole building and maintaining the nest and protecting the colony from invaders and predators, and feeding the colony. They'll forage. They're gonna gather things, allocate food, and they're always busy, except for your lazy ones.
Very busy.
Except for the ones that apparently get time off. I wonder if it's PTO. They're like, yes, I'd like to cash in on my PTO and just be a chill ant today.
Wow, you seem to know a lot about ant work.
Hey, I've been around for a while.
You have.
I may not have talked to that many ants, but I've been around a while. I've definitely tried talking to ants. And I've had the most conversation with you, honestly, though.
Yeah, the rest are probably still angry about Quetzalcoatl.
Well, no wonder they didn't want to talk to me. Like, they could have told me. I don't hide that I'm the daughter of Quetzalcoatl. Like,
yeah.
They could have just told me. I could have maybe tried to help them. But no, apparently this is going to be a thing that goes on for, like, I don't know, eons? Like,
that's just how it is.
How long is this going to last? But, we're learning about ants. You're teaching me things. I'm sharing with other people, too. And we're going to, like, share our ant knowledge. And then maybe the other ants will forgive my predecessor's sins, I guess, maybe.
What's this second video we have prepared?
Yeah. Oh, but we forgot the last one. There's the queen, the drones, the worker ants, and then there's alates, which are the reproductives. They're the special ants that the queen lays, that end up hatching with wings. And so they're either male or female. And if they're male, then once they get mature enough, then they leave the nest. And the males are gonna go and mate and stuff, and then die. And then the females are gonna go and try to start up a new colony and become new queens. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up the
nuptial flight
video.
It always surprises me what we can do.
My ad blocker did not work.
Presentations.
Ants are
I
found
thought
on
you were
every
all powerful.
I hoped I was too.
Ants are found on every continent except Antarctica.
Is this the
which is
video?
ironic
Which one was?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the video.
if you think about it, because you know the word.
Oh, hold on a sec.
Hmm?
I didn't play it for the viewers.
Oh, Lotl, you menace.
I am not a menace. You can't menace me on my own channel.
We have a lot to work through today, clearly.
Ants are found on every continent except Antarctica, which is ironic if you think about it, because you know the word
Punny.
ant. It's in the name. Plus, ants are cool. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching D News Today. I'm Trace. Ants are everywhere. Seriously, there are over 12,000 species of ant, and they just sent ants to space in the commercial generic bioprocessing apparatus Science Insert 06. God, NASA and your names. I am fascinated by these tiny little creatures. I think ants are totally going to take over the world after we die. They're really cool. Ants are excellent organizers. They live in nearly every kind of environment known to man, and though most of us know that there's a queen ant, patrollers, foragers, builders, and so on, ants are actually egalitarian. The queen isn't the boss. They've actually got no leader. According to the NASA documentation, no one ant directs the behavior of a group or ant, and no ant decides what another ant should do. They sent ants to space to find out how these tiny leaderless organizers would handle microgravity. They did better than humans did at figuring out how to float and then grabbing the walls of their container or each other, and they did it pretty quickly. Without a leader, ants have to communicate with each other to complete tasks that help the colony as a whole. A study in Nature explored hydrocarbons which coat ant bodies to keep them from drying out in desert environments, but they are also used for communication. Patroller ants are usually the first to explore for food, so researchers drew them out, trapped them, and then placed tiny glass beads coated in the same hydrocarbon as the patroller ants outside of the colony entrance. They hoped that this would signal the forager ants that the patrollers were back by smell, and they could come out and get the food that those patrollers had found. It worked. This research has implications well outside of the Honey, I Shrunk the Science community. When engineers and scientists use nature as the inspiration for technology, it's called biomimicry. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things in science, and now computer scientists are proposing using ants' decentralized command structure to inspire new email spam filters. Researchers from Stanford realized that while observing ant colonies, young ants are surrounded by other ants, each with their own chemical scent. Over time, they meet more ants and they learn which are friendly and which are enemies. As they age, they'll eventually leave the colony to forage, meaning that they'll meet strangely scented ants, which they will know are intruders, that they should attack them. But no single ant knows every scent for every friendly or attacker. In this way, each ant has its own training and attack schema. Rather than training a spam filter with a centralized master list, computer scientists are copying ants to create smaller broken up lists, which allows computer scientists to make cheaper, more efficient systems. Studying ants can teach us a lot about the environment too. New York City is chock full of environmental stress for ants and also for humans. Researchers from North Carolina State observed 21 species of ant living in Manhattan, and they found the most common successful Tetramorium species E has evolved to eat human leftovers. In nature, ants will seek out sugars, fruits, meats, proteins, seeds, grains, and even other ant species when they're hungry. Because they have a lot of human food on the streets of New York, though, these ants adapted to clean up after us. They know this because researchers found high rates of carbon-13, a sugar found in corns and grasses that's common in human food. It's rare in the natural world, though. The thing is, other than being super successful in this really stressful natural environment, we don't know what this adaptation will mean for these little guys. Studying ants tells us a lot about the kind of environment we're creating for ourselves and the other things that inhabit this world. Will they fall victim to junk food's woes like humans? Because I hope not. It's pretty bad out there, guys. So ants have no leader, they got no formal training systems, and they eat our garbage and they clean up our streets. They are a valuable educational resource to learn about ourselves, our environment, and through biomimicry, teach us about any number of other scientific inspirations. But what's your relationship with ants? You love them? You hate them? Tell us down in the comments below, or you can hold on to your comments until April 9th. Because Thursday, April 9th at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, we are going to have a Google Hangout with Mitchell Moffat and Greg Brown from ASAP Science, as well as Joe Hansen from It's Okay to Be Smart. You can RSVP with the link in the description because you do not want to miss this. It is going to be super awesome. D News, ASAP Science, and It's Okay to Be Smart.
Yeah, I think that was probably it.
How dare you give my hopes up? the video that's already passed.
That was cool,
Ugh.
though. I really love biomimicry.
Yes.
I love when nature inspires inspires tech. My favorite biomimicry thing is actually related to like sharks, the shark body, torpedo shape and everything, and birds and everything inspire airplanes, airplanes and wetsuits.
Now, we're talking about biomimicry in terms of humans mimicking nature, correct?
Yeah. So biomimicry is humans mimicking nature based on the natural processes that have been observed.
Well, we won't be. No, you continue.
Sorry, let me just catch up on chat. Let's see. Koichi, I'm glad that you love the streams, and I'm glad that you're here. Reezy, Ants, and Axolotl sworn natural enemies, as we all know. I don't think we're quite sworn enemies.
Not yet.
Not yet. What?
Hey, what?
My goodness. Axolotls have been known to burn down ant villages and steal any treasure they come across. This is slander.
God.
This is slander. You
I
guys
can't
are
believe you would do this.
You guys are making me look really bad in front of Sundered.
Wow.
Sundered already thinks I'm a menace and is trying to apparently sue me.
I'm not sure what I'm suing you for.
I know.
I'll
I
get something.
was wondering how that was gonna work. And yeah, space ants. We did learn that they didn't really get any training. These were untrained ants that were sent to space.
Untrained. Unlike astronauts.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's kind of rude. I think that's kind of another like rude thing that humans
that just
have done.
shows they trust how skilled we are.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to look at it. But still, I think they probably could have at least given like some little tiny astronaut suits, you know?
Ah, basic. Now, I wanted to mention that we won't be getting into it today, but there are a number of spider species in nature that have evolved to mimic ants.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. This is done for a variety of reasons. Maybe to like ward off creatures that don't want to prey upon ants, or so that they can more easily sneak in and prey upon ants themselves.
Welcome. Thank you so much for the raid, Wony.
Oh,
welcome.
Wony, nice to see you.
Wasp raid.
Yes.
Welcome, Kokona.
My good friend.
Hey, Bongo. Apparently, ants should colonize Mars.
My fellow invertebrates.
So, tell me a little bit more about these. You said spiders that mimic ants?
Yes, spiders. I don't know a lot about it. But unfortunately, we won't be getting into it today.
Okay. But there are some spiders that mimic ants. That's pretty cool. Yeah, here to learn some bug facts.
I'm sure some of you may have heard of, I believe they're called cow killer wasps. These ants, who I believe the females resemble ants.
So is it like a camouflage tactic, or are they changing their behavior, or what?
Well, you could see it as, let me see. Yes. So the males have wings, like a wasp, but the females do not have wings. They're otherwise known as velvet ants, just cow ants.
Oh, Wony Wasp knew.
Yeah, they're a parasitoid wasp.
Oh, I see.
Yes, they're commonly mistaken for actual ants.
Tricksters. They're
They
the real
range from
menace.
Connecticut and Missouri, and to Florida and Texas.
That's pretty interesting.
They're quite colorful also. But yeah,
And
so
it's
they
called
might
a
be
velvet ant?
a velvet ant or a cow killer ant.
Oh, that is pretty. Let me see if I can...
I'm not sure why they have evolved to resemble ants, but I know some species have evolved to ward off predators that don't like to prey upon ants. There it is.
So there is the velvet ant. Valor, which is not an ant at all.
Yes, a wasp.
Dangerous. Trickster.
Yes. I've heard they're quite painful.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to have to encounter one. Alright, so shall we continue? Because we see how smart they are so far, but just how smart are they?
An individual ant doesn't seem very smart. I mean, they're not totally stupid.
What?
They can remember the location of a food source and go back to it again. They are capable of learning things. But an individual ant is not very smart. And yet, when you put a whole lot of individual ants together in a colony, they can do things that are very smart that none of the individuals could do. They can make group, collective decisions about things like building their nests and adding on chambers, or growing fungus gardens, or foraging for food and deciding, like, we've cut enough leaves off this tree, let's move on to the next tree. It's almost analogous to your own nervous system. Individual nerve cells are pretty stupid. They get some impulse and it reaches some threshold and they say, oh, it's time to send a signal. But all of your nerve cells together make your brain, which is capable of making you who you are. Each individual ant has a somewhat limited repertoire. Some stimulus comes in, like alarm pheromone, there must be an intruder. And then there's a response, like, I should make some alarm pheromone too, and I should approach in the direction of the intruder. But when a lot of ants are assembled together, each of them with this little repertoire of behaviors, you get an emergent sort of overall colony-level intelligence that makes it possible for ants to do these really complicated things that are kind of like the complicated things humans do.
Thanks for the host, Bongo. And also Rick, if I didn't say that earlier.
Oh, thank you, Smithsonian.
Yeah, they're just like, single
I've
ants,
travelled
not
all over.
smart.
Oh no, not a gecko. He'll eat me.
Telling folks they could save by bundling
Sorry,
health and car
gotta watch the
insurance.
sad.
But
I'll
here's the
protect
real
you, don't
secret.
worry.
Eye
It's getting pretty
contact.
close. It's getting real close to you. Watch out.
Oh,
We just had a moment.
Geico.
Did you have
Dr.
a moment
Nigel-
with that gecko?
I hope not. He's gonna sell me car insurance for a car I don't have.
Oh, I wasn't blinking.
Oh, I thought you were blinking.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about intelligence and ants. Because obviously you have some stuff to say since, you know, he was talking down about single ant intelligence.
Yeah, compared to other insects, scientists believe ants have the largest brain in proportion to their size among insects.
Oh, that's interesting.
Plus, much like humans, we are really good at communicating between one another. We show amazing decision-making abilities, and we both solve problems in groups.
Yeah.
And, earlier, you mentioned that ants are pretty quiet around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, although we do communicate using pheromones, we also make sound.
Really?
Yes, we chirp to each other by rubbing two hard parts of our abdomen together, an act known as stridulation.
What? Why have I never heard that? Why are all of your ant people being quiet around me? That's just plain rude.
And so, I'm not sure if all species. My research wasn't clear if all species of ant do this or just some. But soldiers, workers, and queens make different kinds of chirps.
I see.
And even mature pupae can make noise.
Little baby ants, the pupa can
The pupa.
can make noise too, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea that they could chirp.
Yeah. Multifaceted ways of communicating.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to say about ant intelligence?
Well, actually, there was an interesting study that happened over at Rockefeller University, and they were looking at the ant colonies and the relationship between group size and social behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were trying to figure out about the division of labor and how ants decided to do things, and if it changed if the size was different. And so their findings ended up challenging the popular belief about group dynamics that strong groups require strong leaders, because basically the ant species doesn't have a leader at all. All of the group members are workers, and the ones that they went with, they all laid their own eggs, and so basically they all just figured out what needed to happen and how to make it happen to survive. And so it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I believe we touched on that bit earlier.
Yeah. And so it basically has significant implications about the evolution of social behavior. So that's pretty fun to think about how little teeny tiny ants can shed a whole lot of information about the natural world.
Very incredible.
And Reezy says, literal big brain. And Rihanna is like, my eyes were burning into their soul. My eyes are blinking. My eyes blink.
Yes. My eyes, on the other hand, do not blink.
Yeah, maybe that's the eyes that are actually burning into your soul.
I can't help it.
Speak up, ants. We can't hear you.
I never know how loud I should speak.
No. I'm just saying that was in response to
Yes, I saw Kokona. Nori, my good friend.
All right. So let's go.
Next video. I have nothing to add.
Okay.
After switching to Canva presentations, my only regret was not doing it sooner. There are all these free...
All right. Oh, I have to go make sure you guys can see the video. Ah! There we go.
I believe you might have skipped a video.
This was the next one, I think.
Oh, no. Antzilla, see?
Oh, yep, you're right.
After switching to
Hey,
Canva
I just
presentations,
watched
my
this.
only regret was not doing it sooner. There are all these free...
Okay.
Dr. Nigel Franks wants to know how ants make decisions. He's enlisted some tiny lab partners that he calls rock
Tiny
ants.
partners.
Each one of Nigel's ants has a chip on her shoulder.
Well, the chips are fantastic. I mean, they're absolutely tiny, so we
Oh
can
wait,
glue
I
them
wonder
on the
if
back
this
of an
is
ant that's
the
2
study I was
millimeters long.
referring to.
And what the chips
Maybe.
enable us to do is to
We'll
get
see.
each individual ant to identify itself to us.
By identifying individuals, Nigel can tell who collects information,
Ant
how they
tech
communicate
winner.
it, and how a consensus is reached.
They're shiny ants.
So here is the old nest, which I've destroyed by taking off the top microscope slide. And they're pretty annoyed about that and pretty angry with me. And so they've got nowhere to live currently, and they're going to have to find a new nest site to live in. And we've offered them, at the other end of the arena, a poor quality site over here, and a really beautiful, high quality nest site over there.
The ants begin inspecting their two options. Every time an individual enters or exits the potential nest, a laser beam records its passing. This ant has discovered the good quality nest site. So she returns to the old nest and reports her findings. There's a brush of antennae. Her body emits a pheromone, a chemical signal. Her sister ant receives the message. Come and see.
They do a very special form of recruitment called tandem running. And that's where one ant literally leads just a single other nestmate. And what we've been able to show is that tandem running qualifies as teaching. And what pleases me is that it was the first case that one could demonstrate teaching in any other animal than ourselves. So the ants are incredibly special.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
As for the ants that found the less desirable nest, their reports are less enthusiastic. They solicit fewer tandem runners. Dr. Frank suspects that each ant has a basic concept of what makes a good home. So more ants get recruited to the good nest, enough to convince the colony as a whole. Within an hour or so, the entire colony has moved.
And let me put this in very anthropocentric terms, that they'll think, well, it isn't just me who thinks this nest site is good, all of my friends think it's good too. So by using not just their own individual opinions, if you will, but the opinions of lots of their nestmates, they can form very accurate decisions.
After switching to Canva presentations, my only
Cyberpunk
regret was not
ants.
doing it sooner.
Hey.
There were all
Yeah.
these free templates to play around.
Now we can watch this.
It felt like that last one just sort of cut off.
Yeah. I feel like it was part of a larger program,
Oh, wow.
you know?
We got the gist of it, I guess. Ants
Like
are cool.
something that was like a clip from a TV episode.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can see how ants build bridges in midair with just their
Yes.
bodies.
Yes, their body.
Army ants exhibit complex social behaviors that require group cooperation to achieve success. New footage shows how these ants build bridges with okay, their bodies.
Okay.
The lead ant will slow down. The rest of the colony will continue to build the bridge with their bodies until the... Is it cutting
Do
off?
you think some text is being cut off?
With brains that weigh less than 1/millionth as much as a human brain, it's not surprising that these ants communicate using... I was too slow.
Yeah.
Unlike human language, these messages are all instinctual. They just know things.
Yeah.
When you know, right?
Yeah.
This example of cooperation goes to show why ants are such successful survivors. Those poor ants up at the top. They're holding on for everybody now.
Well, thankfully, the rest of these videos won't have title. But we have to... That required subtitles. I mean.
Yeah, I've definitely knew about fire ants building rafts during floods.
Yes.
That's a fascinating way they deal with situations.
So some of you may have heard of it in a small little indie film called Ant-Man.
Indie film, huh?
Yeah. You know, it's not that big. Not many people know about it.
I mean, it's even known to the ants.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we continue, or did you have anything to say about any of those videos?
No, I think I've got all I needed to say about intelligence.
Okay. So then, why do dead ants attract more ants?
Yes, why?
Let's find out. Oh.
Yes, remember
Notice
to
that for a while
stream
it is
for the class.
Hey, have you ever wondered, why do dead ants attract more ants? Have you ever killed an ant and then noticed after a while it is surrounded by many live ants? Which leads us to the question, why do dead ants attract more ants? Can ants sense death? Do ants bury their dead? Do they mourn their dead? The answer to these questions may come as a surprise to you.
These questions may haunt you. And so may the answers.
Did you put videos in this
We think that
are
ants are
gonna
just
haunt
tiny
people?
insects that move around looking for something sweet.
I mean...
But in fact, ants are a very sophisticated species with many different fascinating characteristics. Most of the ants don't have eyes or ears, which means they rely heavily on their sense of smell to find their way to food and their way back to their nest. Ants release pheromones when they travel from their nest to their destination. And when an ant dies, it releases oleic acid. For an ant, the smell of oleic acid is equal to death. They detect the scent, and then swarms of ants rush to the carcass. They consider a dead ant as a threat to their colony. Meaning, if a single ant dies, it can spread disease, which can kill other ants. So they rush the dead ant, not to mourn it, but to get rid of the body, before it can cause any more death in the colony. Wilson made an amazing discovery, that if you bathe a living ant in oleic acid, it's as good as dead to the other ants. The oleic acid-covered ant will be taken to a dead ant pile, because the other ants detecting the oleic acid will consider it dead. Ants are pretty smart creatures.
Pretty crazy.
As they build structures of dead ants and waste materials called middens. These are like graveyards or dumps, where they throw away all the waste material and bury their dead. Ants don't literally bury their dead, but if they find a dead ant, surely they'll carry it to the midden. They don't have feelings like humans do, and they don't mourn their dead, but they carry out this ritual for every dead ant for self-preservation. The queen has a big role when it comes to ant death in the hive, because the queen makes sure things run smoothly in the hive, being responsible for reproduction. Because she lays thousands of eggs, without the queen, the hive will not survive, and the queen is unreplaceable. What happens when the queen ant dies? When the queen dies, her dead body is also taken to the midden. But death of the queen ant is far more significant than the death of other hive members. This is because the ant population will no longer be able to reproduce. Therefore, other members of the hive will die eventually, and the hive will be no more. Did you know that there's a species of ant that plays dead? Fire ants are the most common species when it comes to playing dead. These are quite aggressive towards other ants' nests. If they see an enemy ant, they will pretend to be dead. And when the other ants move away, it might even get up and run away. If you are bothered by ants moving around in your home or backyard, killing the ant is not a good idea, because by killing an ant, you're going to invite other ants. Ants usually gather in places where they find food, usually something sweet. So in order to get rid of ants, we should never leave food open where ants have access to it, or we need to get rid of their nest altogether. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and learned a lot of new things. Thank you for watching Why Do Dead Ants Attract More Ants? If you liked the video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.
So, do a recap.
Rush to the carcass.
So they go and they get rid of the carcass because it's a threat, but why is it a threat?
Yes, I have some thoughts on this. What would you like to hear?
Yeah, I was asking you.
Oh.
Why?
Oh, I thought
Why is it a threat?
Why are you putting me on the spot now?
Because you're an ant. You would know.
Oh my, that's right. Well, it's incredible that ants understand that contact with the dead is dangerous because it can provoke disease.
Okay. So
And,
just instinctually, you know that.
yeah. And I couldn't really gather a ton of notes on this subject, but maybe if humans were more proactive about public health, it wouldn't have so many plagues.
I mean, that's a fair assessment, honestly.
But I did feel the video neglect to mention a few things.
Oh?
Yes. See, the scientists have a term for this behavior of removing dead colony members. It's called necrophoresis, and it's been observed in bees, wasps, and even termites.
Oh, wow.
And earlier, you were talking about all the roles in ant society, but there's also another role. That is the Undertaker.
The Undertaker, ooh.
Yes,
that sounds pretty, like...
They handle the dead and socially distance themselves from the other ants.
Oh, that sounds kind of sad.
So it's like a scientist or doctor putting on the scrubs and whatnot, making sure everyone else stays healthy.
A job for introvert ants.
And the middens they carry the dead to, depending on the species, can either be a pile outside the nest or a compartment inside of it.
Antroverts.
But these middens aren't just for the dead. They're also for food scraps, bodily waste, and any other trash.
Okay, so it's kind of like a big... It'd basically be compared to a human dump.
Yeah.
Where they also... A dump mixed with a cemetery, I guess. Well, that's pretty fascinating.
Exactly. The most interestingly, some ants have been seen to have these in addition to designated chambers for pooping. The humans aren't quite sure why yet.
And I guess that's currently a trade secret. You're not really ready to let us in on that.
Other ants will just take their poop to the midden, but see, these other ants, they have a place inside the nest that they go. And maybe they're getting some kind of use out of their poop.
That's pretty intriguing.
Did you have anything to add?
I don't think so.
Well, I believe I actually have one more thing to mention.
Go for it.
As I mentioned, we know that it's dangerous. Dead bodies are dangerous because they can provoke disease. Well, so relating back to the virus humanity suffered last year, some ants will flee their colony if infected with a fungal disease in order to protect everyone else. In other cases, a healthy ant will groom the infected physically. They'll physically remove the spores before they can sprout and grow. And in a way, this deliberately infects everyone in the colony with a tiny dose, like immunization.
Oh, that's really fascinating. So you've got ants that if they're too far gone and they know that they're a risk to the colony, then they're going to leave to help protect the rest of them.
Very selfless.
And then on the other hand, if they're still savable, then they can improve the chances of success with the colony dealing with something like that in the future by exposing them to just a small bit that they'd be able to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
That is so smart.
I know, right?
Man, ants are so smart.
Yeah. But now, I believe we're getting to a topic that was mentioned briefly in one of the previous videos, agriculture.
Smarty ants, says Goralina.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Goo.
All right, let's go and see ant agriculture.
After switching to Canva presentations, my only regret was not doing.
Wow, this Canva seems pretty interesting.
I mean, honestly, I love Canva, but I don't love
I said switch to Canva presentation.
12,000.
But I don't love all their ads.
Humans created farming around 12,000 years ago, but there was another species that independently created farming
man, I keep doing
before.
that. Hold on. I have to take off the picture. Oh, that didn't do it. Okay, there we go.
But yes.
Humans created farming around 12,000 years ago, but there was another species that independently created farming way before we did. 55 million years before, in fact.
Woo!
It wasn't the
55
Neanderthal
million
or an ape.
years.
It was actually the lowly ant, an insect.
lowly ant.
Specifically these guys. You've all probably seen a clip like this on a nature documentary setting the scene of a wild rainforest. But in the rainforest, it's not actually obvious what these ants are doing. Let me put it this way. If you put leafcutter ants into an ant farm and then you watched them build a colony, you'd have an ant farm. They don't farm corn or cows, but they farm fungus. We'll come back to that in a second. Leafcutter ants, like the famous atacephalotes, literally cut leaves and then carry them on their backs to their colony. But have you ever thought about what they do when they get there? Because the ants don't eat the leaves they carry, which is what I thought they did. No, they use them to grow crops. They use them for agriculture. Agriculture, by definition, is the science or practice of farming, including the cultivation of the soil for the growing of crops. Also the rearing of animals to provide food, wool, and other products. Ants are doing this. They dig growing chambers in their colonies, down in deep tunnels to control their temperatures. They bring dew and water from the surface to the chambers to control humidity of their crops. And this is where the leaves come in. The atta ants drink the sap, clean the leaves, crush them up, and then compost them with their own fecal liquid. Delicious. And the fungus, a basidiomycete type, grows on this soil that they create. Then they harvest bits of the fungus and use it to feed their colony, just like human farmers. We are still new to farming. Wheat is one of the oldest farmed grains, but it wasn't until Norman Borlaug bred two special wheats together that humans could finally use it to feed millions upon millions of people. He won the Nobel Peace Prize for this in 1970. But that is noob science in comparison to ants who have been using agriculture to feed millions of ants for millions of years. Atta ants have evolved over millions of years alongside their crops, weeding, watering, and preening. One species of ant has even cultivated a fungal line that produces high yields to feed even more ants. No Peace Prize for them, though. The coolest part about this is some of the 250 species of ant that have evolved agriculture have also cultivated their crops so much that without the ants, it would die. The fungus only exists to feed the ants. Another cool thing, ants aren't the only farming species out there. Termites are also fungal farmers. And here you thought they were just eating your house. Nope. They feed some of those bits to their fungal friends. Damselfish are the only known fish to be agriculturalists, farming algae for their food. There are even species of beetle and snail with this practice. But come on, why should we care about this? Because we've only been farming for 12,000 years, and scientists are not sure farming is a sustainable practice. We have to feed billions of people, meaning we need to use monocultures. One super plant that can feed lots of people. That's what the ants do, just like the Borlaug wheat. But growing crops this way can deplete the soil, like with corn, or subject large crops to disease, like with bananas. The atta ants and other fungal farmers have been cultivating these monocultures for millions of years. If we can learn how they manage to avoid devastation by disease, or how they protect their crops from parasites, maybe we could support another few billion of our own human colony. Aren't ants awesome? You want to learn more about them? We talked to a
Yeah.
bug scientist, calls himself the Ant-Man. You can check it out right here. What do y'all think of these mini farmers? Let us know down in the comments. And don't forget...
Oh, wow, you heard of the obscure indie film.
Yeah, I guess he has.
What a nerd.
Hey, welcome, Kyuhaku.
Yes, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, very cool. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, actually, I have some stuff to say about about the agriculture. So basically, exactly what he was saying, how humans were farming, 12,000 years ago, but ants have been doing it for far longer. And it was so cool that basically they do this monoculture for the fungus, and it's basically like our crops right now. We cultivate things that are so highly modified that they exist in forms that are no longer found in the wild. So that's exactly what's going on with the ants here. But the big difference is that the ants aren't using fertilizers that have unexpected outcomes on other natural processes. So they're growing these monoculture fungi and everything, but they're keeping there's all kinds of different bacteria and microbes that are benign or beneficial, and creating this little ecosystem that works and protects its stuff. Thank you so much for the follow. But yeah, so if we can learn how to do that as humans to make sure to protect the optimal ecological blend of what needs to exist, then we'd be able to be much more effective as farmers and really do things a whole lot more sustainably and environmentally consciously. And who knows, maybe that's how we would end up having the best healthy soil and healthy corn, as if we, didn't go and throw all sorts of crazy things.
Let me ask you something, Miss Lotl.
Yeah?
Can you think of an example of a monoculture?
Honestly, I don't know too much about farming or anything.
I have an example.
Like, I know corn. It's basically just when you're growing a single crop in a whole area. But go ahead. Tell me your example.
Yes. One of the best examples of a monoculture is bananas.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I know a little bit about bananas.
Yeah. So we ants have the leafcutter ants have achieved a monoculture. The problem is that unlike humans, we have not lost genetic diversity. And the loss of genetic diversity for bananas has put them at increased risk.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know.
I love bananas, and I was very surprised and sad to realize just how at risk they are. If there's a really, really bad disease that gets spread among them, the genetic diversity is so low that they would all be able to get it and just die out completely. Bananas could just completely be wiped out. Can you imagine? Oh, I love bananas.
Yeah. And we've partially achieved this by keeping our underground gardens spotless to limit the possibility of disease, and by producing a sort of natural antibiotic that acts as a pesticide, battling parasitic fungi that threaten the food source.
That's smart.
These strategies effectively keep pathogens in check, don't obliterate them as humans tend to do. Instead, we have achieved a sustainable balance.
Yeah. I really respect ants for figuring out how to sustainably grow their crops. And yeah, so Bongo is saying monoculture also applies to other grains like soy, beans, coffee, even corn. Yeah, corn was the one I was talking about a little bit earlier.
Broom corn?
Broomcorn? I don't know.
Broomcorn.
I kind of read it as an even boom corn.
That might be what they meant.
Which is apparently corn is one of the bigger sources.
Mm-hmm.
Has ceased.
Oh no.
All right, let me. Oh, actually, my camera.
Okay. Let's see. Just let me know when you're ready.
It's okay. You can just keep spouting off information while I
well,
get myself back to moving.
Yeah, I wanted
Instead,
to
I'm
mention
just-
there are over 240 species of fungus cultivating ants.
There's that many?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But still, that's a drop in the bucket with how many ant species there are.
That's true. How many different ant species are there?
Oh, I can't remember. So many.
Yeah, quite a lot.
But I think I'm ready for our second video we have prepared for
how they take care of their farms.
After switching to Canva presentations, my
Oh
only
wow, Canva presentations.
Canva really, really wants to
my favorite thing.
When humans first domesticated plants about 12,000 years ago, gotta say, it was a pretty big deal. But it was not a first. Hundreds of ant species, along with some termites and beetles, have been farming for tens of millions of years. Ants practice two forms of farming. Some species farm fungi, and others farm aphids. In both cases, it's a symbiotic relationship where two species have some kind of interaction, but more specifically, it's mutualism, where they both benefit from that relationship. The fungi and aphids can digest things the ants can't, so they provide the ants with nutrients, and in exchange, the ants protect and feed them. There are more than 200 species of ants that farm fungi, and they've been doing it for up to 50 million years. Most of them use dead plant material like leaf litter to cultivate their farms. It's easier for the fungi to digest that dead stuff using enzymes that break it down into nutrients that the ants can then eat. But dead leaf-eating fungi usually can't provide enough food for an entire colony, so the ants have to go eat other stuff too. But over the last few million years, leafcutter ants and their fungus farms have come up with a better way. They use freshly cut living leaves, which are more nutritious for the fungus. Along the way, the fungus evolved to grow nutrient-rich clusters called ganglidia, which the ants eat. And the ants have lost a lot of their ability to digest anything else. You've probably seen pictures like this one of leafcutter ants hauling leaves, but they don't actually eat those leaves. Instead, they chew them up and spit them back out to feed to the fungus garden. Smaller worker ants start the process at the top layers of the garden, breaking the leaves into millimeter-sized bits. But the ants need to help the fungus digest the fresh leaves because the thinner top layer of the garden is the one doing the digesting, and it doesn't have enough enzymes to complete the job. So they poop and spit on it. Ants in lower sections of the nest eat some of the fungus, including its enzymes. Those areas are more densely packed, so they have plenty to spare. Once they've had their fill, they travel back up to the top and excrete those enzymes onto the leaves in the form of saliva and feces. Some fungi farming ants also grow antibiotic-secreting bacteria that rid the fungi of parasites. In other words, the ants are using pesticide on their farms. For some ants, though, fungus isn't their crop of choice. Instead, they farm aphids, tiny insects that feed on plant juices, almost like how humans herd cattle. Aphids eat phloem, the part of a plant that transports sugar, and they excrete a waste product known as honeydew. Honeydew is full of all kinds of sugars like glucose and fructose, and ants tend to prefer aphids whose honeydew also contains more complex sugars called trisaccharides. The ants keep groups of aphids in herds above ground on plants, and all they have to do to get the aphids to produce some honeydew is stroke them, like they're milking a cow. And the ants will go to some extreme lengths to protect their sugary food producers. The ants will keep the aphids sheltered from rain, building structures from leaves, and they'll move them to better feeding plants to maximize honeydew production. They'll also attack ladybugs, which love to feed on aphids if they get too close, even seeking out and destroying ladybug eggs. On the other hand, ants have been known to bite the wings off of aphids to keep them from leaving, and they also secrete some chemicals that stunt wing growth and others that slow aphids down. Sounds kind kind of harsh, but it could be less of a trap and more of a signal to aphids, basically saying, if you stay here, the ants will protect you. It's a win-win for the colony of tiny farmers and for their herd. Thank you for watching this episode of SciShow, which was brought to you by our patrons on Patreon, who make this fascinating content available for themselves and the whole world. If you want to support the show,
that is really cool. I didn't know that there were. I knew that some ants were having fungus farms, but I didn't know they were like raising cattle bugs.
Yes, aphids.
Aphids, guys. Aphids. Learn it.
I didn't. I knew about aphids, but didn't think to prepare any notes about them, especially since Mr. John here is already so informative.
Well, that's really cool, though. I had no idea that there were also ants that would do something like that, so I think that's pretty awesome. Alright, so let me see if there was anything that I had to specifically say. I don't think I did. I think I already talked about it. Yeah. I think that was...
I hope so. Well?
Hold on. Heard a noise.
Oh, that's just me.
Oh! Thank you so much for the raid! Hello, welcome, Athela! Athela Novella! Oh, I love your name!
Oh, it's Toto!
Welcome, welcome. Hey, Toto! How are you doing?
I believe Toto was collabing with Athela.
Oh! How are you guys doing? You were doing a bad dating sim. Thank you so much for the follow and for the raid. Welcome, welcome.
Yes, I'm surprised to see you here, Toto, with all the bad experiences you've had with ants.
What bad experiences?
I
guess we won't get into it. Don't worry, don't worry.
No, your secret is safe with us.
Well, we just learned that not only do some ants raise fungi gardens, they also raise, what's the word?
Aphids.
They also raise aphids, which is basically like cattle bugs.
Yes,
they're like cattle ranchers. They milk these bugs for their honeydew. Wow. And then they protect them from ladybugs. And keep them safe, but they're also kind of brutal sometimes. Like they'll, what was it, that like rip their wings off so they can't fly away? That's kind of rude, but
or produce some kind of enzyme to hinder the growth of wings.
Yeah, not gonna lie, that's kind of rude, but at the same time, I guess you gotta keep your herd from like escaping, and if you don't have like a pen for them, because they just basically like lead them around and take them over to the plants to eat and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like clipping wings on farm ducks. But it just sounds sad too. I'm just like, animals be free.
But now it's animals doing it to animal.
Yeah, how weird is that? Yeah, no, they don't eat them. They milk them. They protect them and raise them and eat what they give. It's crazy. I love it.
Crazy.
All right. Now let's talk about war.
Yes.
This summer at Wawa, beat the heat with our handcrafted refreshers and smoothies. Try our mango passion.
About 200,000.
Pause it for a moment.
Yeah.
I want to say the last thing that we humans and ants fortunately have in common is that we have territorial disputes and outright warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, that's definitely a thing that you can see in big civilizations, and you definitely see it in both ants and in humans.
years ago, perhaps the first war in human history began. Homo sapiens fought over territory and resources with Neanderthals, and this led to the gradual extermination of the latter. But the animals began feuding long before man picked up a stick, and believe me, their wars have always been just as brutal. Let's go. This is a real ant's fortress. Impregnable walls of leaves and guards everywhere. A large and very successful colony lives here. But the cooler the colony, the more powerful enemies it attracts. If you've seen The Hobbit, you remember what happened to the dwarves of Lonely Mountain. For everyone else, let me explain. When they accumulated too much gold, a dragon flew in, set everything on fire, and took the gold and the mountain. Now, can you see this spider? Not a dragon, of course, but it came for the same purpose. Ant gold. What they value most is the larva.
Oh, no.
Now look closely at the spider. Its body is suspiciously similar to that of an ant. Thanks to this, the spider simply sneaks into the most guarded place of the anthill and quietly steals the larva.
Ooh, that's not nice.
What about the guards? Surprisingly, they don't understand what's going on. Looks like Steve's brother, or his grandmother. Okay, let him go. Wait, the alarm? Yeah, let's pretend that's what it sounds like for ants. The colony seems to be in danger, and it's not even about a spider. This guard releases special pheromones that summon all the inhabitants of the anthill to war. To war! Yes, the most ancient war, which has lasted for more than 100 million years. In fact, ants are very similar to humans. Think about it. Alone, an ant, like a man, has little chance to succeed. But united, they're capable of incredible things. Ants build large colonies, do their own farming, and just like humans, wage wars. So the guard signal alerted everyone about an attack by ants from another colony. There they are, crawling up the tree. Their colony isn't as prosperous, so they've come to rob and take over someone else's. But
That's
ant
so
warfare
rude.
isn't just about pawing the enemy and biting. The defenders of the fortress have special weapons, acid cannons.
Acid cannon?
To humans, formic acid seems like some kind of funny sour liquid, but in the world of wildlife, it can save the life of an entire anthill. Or look, this huge ant belongs to the species Camponitus gigas, and it's considered one of the largest in the world. It can reach 3 centimeters in length, while the smaller ones are just regular weaver ants defending their stronghold. They have a special strategy to defeat such a giant. First, you have to immobilize it. See these guys? While they hold its paws and deprive it of resistance, the others quickly bite it and inject poison into the big ant's body. And here, neither the size nor the powerful jaws will help. The chemical weapon works. The giant is defeated. After that, the last invader dies. Today, they managed to defend the fortress, but at what cost? Hundreds, thousands of ants' lives. So yes, everything is in an ordinary war. And such battles happen all the time. As I said, ants have been at war for over 100 million years. During this time, they've not only developed weapons, but also different professions, from night watchman to barrel of sweet water. Yes, that's an ant's job, to be a barrel. What a dream job. But we're interested in the other guys. There they are. Big head, powerful jaws. Only a soldier ant can boast such a set. Moreover, in the ant army, there are even ranks. For example, this one is a private. The bigger one is a sergeant. And the biggest one is a major. In some families, there are also super majors, which are giant creatures in terms of insects. In general, the larger the ant, the superior it is in rank. I'm not sure if they respect the chain of command, but who knows? Each species has its own unique weapon. Surely scientists don't even know about some of them yet, but what if the enemy overcomes all lines of defense, and acid cannons and army ants with big jaws? To get an idea of what the options are, let's take a look at the attackers. Who the hell are these guys? Meet another species of army ants who are nomadic. To understand who they are, we need to travel back to the 13th century. That's when Mongol warriors led by experienced warlords were the real big problem of the time.
Thank you
Ever
so
heard
much
of
for
Genghis
the
Khan?
raid.
Many believe that his warriors didn't even have their own homes. They simply seized, plundered, and destroyed everything in their path. In reality, of course, everything was a little more complicated, but let's omit this fact, or you won't get a beautiful comparison. So these army ants also don't have a home. They don't build anthills, but regularly migrate from one place to another, devastating other ants' homes in the process. These are several species that share a love for constant travel and destroying everything in their path. Look here.
We're
They're
looking
eating a
at
snake.
ant
And here's an
warfare right
unlucky
now.
Scorpion. Big scissor-like jaws, plus numerical advantage, plus the acid that ants inject into their dinner. Anyone caught by the army ants along the way will be dissolved from the inside and eaten.
Sorry,
the only
this
way
is
to
what you're
avoid
coming
a
in
horrible
on.
death is to remain completely still. These ants are almost blind and guided only by sound. Look at that. The grasshopper understands what's up. Otherwise, these ants can't be stopped by acid cannons or any other weapon. Probably human ones too, because, well, we can't shoot back at them, can we? So if nomads attack one colony, their nearest neighbors will know about it. Survival depends on it. When one anthill suffers defeat, the other is in full swing to evacuate everybody. They've spotted the army ants and are trying to save the ants' most precious possessions, the very ant gold that all the invaders want to steal. There's the saving of the larvae taking place. But there are also those who've learned to defend themselves in their own way. See that hatch? That's a gliding ant. This hatch is actually an ant itself. Most often they settle in a tree, taking cavities and cracks. The main feature of these ants is that they have a large concave army shield, which plays an important role in protecting the colony from the enemy. Some species also use it to glide if they accidentally fall from a great height. So when the same guard ant sounds the alarm, these guys cover all entrances and exits with their heads. The enemy just can't get in, and as strange as it sounds, a regular door is enough to protect them. The thick chitinous plate, like a cork, closes the entrance well.
What's your job? I'm a door.
Army ants waste no time in figuring out its construction. They simply move on and conquer some other anthill. And while we're on the subject of unusual ways of defending the anthill, here's a fact. Some of the species are even able to explode near the enemy. Literally. Here, see? This army ant sacrificed itself to save the colony. I don't think ants are capable of fear, of course, but, well, now look at the other battlefields from above. Why? You can't see anything. It's just a forest. But only 50 years ago, there was a bloody war between chimpanzees. If you've watched the other videos on my channel, you know that chimpanzees are not just harmless fruit eaters at all. They're cannibals.
Oh my.
I think we could stop.
Who can not only hunt other primates, but also exterminate.
As I think it goes
suddenly
into
goes
non-ant territory.
into primates. All right. Well, I actually have a little bit of information to share about that.
Yeah.
But that was really interesting. I loved seeing how there was like
all
ants
these
that
ways they've adapted.
Yeah, that's interesting. But everybody, welcome here to our special day 1 of Insect Week.
Insect Week.
So this is officially Insect Week, and so I've got this collab right now going on with Sundered Ant, a real live ant. See?
Nice to meet you.
And tomorrow I've got another special event for Insect Day, and that'll be with Luma Mariposa.
Luma Mariposa.
And then on Sunday I will do a one more to close it all up. So we are celebrating all the different insects and why they're important and how cool they are. Because, you know, insects, you don't really think too much about insects, but they help make the world go round. Yeah. Little things matter.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw my video I posted yesterday, Lotl.
I actually didn't get a chance to look. I saw that you'd shared it, but I hadn't had a chance.
Yes. I did a short stream in which at the end I shared a small video on how dung beetles are important to the ecosystem.
You want to talk about it now? You want to talk about why they're cool?
No, this is Ant Stream. Get out, you dung beetle.
Okay. But yeah, I know that they're really important, and I have to go and take a look at that video.
Yes, it's not that long.
All right. But yeah, so everybody, welcome to my stream. I do environmental videos and stuff sometimes, like streams like this, at least once a week. And then I do other things like play games and play music and sing songs and make original music and all that stuff.
I stream inconsistently. But you'll often find me in Lotl's chat.
Yes, you will. Yeah, and you can find my social stuff there, and feel free to follow me on Twitch if you haven't already. But I'm happy to have you all. Okay, so in regards to warfare, let me turn the warfare.
Yeah. I don't mean to brag or anything, but we ants can and do take wasps in combat. So I think I could take Luma Mariposa in a fight.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
Throwing down the gloves. This sounds like a challenge. Okay, so let me find. Okay, so I thought it was really interesting how ants will kind of weigh their options about whether or not they should do a full-scale war. Because ultimately they're trying to make sure it's going to be for the good of the colony, right? And so a lot of times they will try to avoid something. For example, honeypot ants. So they feast on foraging termites, and if two colonies end up coming across a cluster of their prey, the ants will gather at a sort of tournament site where the workers from each colony will circle each other while standing up high on their legs, and generally the larger workers come from larger nests, and so the size difference helps indicate which team would win if the colonies fought each other. And so once one group appears to be outsized, then the workers will retreat. They'll retreat and fast. And so the standoff only really turns lethal if the big ants are able to track the smaller ones home. So they figure out, they predetermine who the winner would be, and then they just leave. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the other thing about the whole warfare thing, we were seeing about the monkey, or not the monkeys, the chimpanzees, right? But really, the larger the group, the more diverse and extreme the aggressive responses are going to be. I think there was a specific number I had found. Okay, so the population size where both ants and human societies end up shifting from low-risk raids and ritualized fights to a full-blown warfare is when the population reaches somewhere between 10,000 individuals to a couple tens of thousands. So basically, once you get 10,000 individuals, you start having more aggressive responses. And I thought that was pretty interesting to know, that there's some kind of level.
That is very interesting.
And in most cases, apparently the aggression ends up reaching epic levels in societies of hundreds of thousands or more. And so there's apparently constant warring happening between the Argentine ant, which is an invasive species that controls entire regions across the...
We might be hearing more about that in the next video.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
But I'll just finish my sentence.
Yes.
So the Argentine ant apparently has entire swaths of control across Southern California and other parts of the world. And they constantly have millions of casualties every week along the border lines that extend for miles along San Diego or near San Diego.
San Diego.
And obviously they don't have guns and bombs and things like that like we do as humans, but just their sheer numbers and their muscle power, and they just work to overcome and overwhelm their rivals, and they're brutal. So
quite brutal.
It's pretty crazy. All right, well, let me go ahead and have us watch the next.
Yes, these last two have been much longer than the rest of the videos.
There's only one more.
Yes.
Okay, I thought that you were saying that there was 2 left. Okay.
Want to collaborate with
I'm saying the one we just
enjoy
watched.
presentations with Canva.
Oh, yeah. That one was. Hey, this one's making us watch 2 ads.
In nearly every corner of the Earth, ants wage war against each other. Their weapons are what nature gave them. Some have strong armor, deadly stingers, or sharp mandibles. And then there's this tiny and not very impressive ant, but it rules the biggest empire any ant has ever built. A colony spanning continents and fighting wars that leave millions of casualties. Let's take a look at this unlikely warrioress, Linipithema humile, the Argentine ant. This story begins in the floodplains around the Paraná River in South America. It's a crowded ant megalopolis where dozens of ant species fight for dominance, including fire ants, army ants, and the rather unimpressive Argentine ant. It measures only 2 to 3 millimeters in length, and with its small mandibles, it's surprising that it survived among its buff competitors. Their homes are equally unremarkable. Their colonies range from fairly small to very large and can be found anywhere, under logs, in loose leaf litter, or the former colonies of other ants. Here, Argentine ants prepare their most effective weapon against their competitors' bodies. Most ant species have only one queen to produce ants, while Argentine ants went all in on numbers. For every 120 workers, there's one queen, laying up to 60 eggs a day. So their colonies grow fast and have millions or billions of individuals.
Wow.
Teams of queens and workers frequently branch out and found new colonies. But this strategy has a downside. As colonies grow and produce a lot of offspring, mutations occur and new colonies adapt to new environments. Their DNA slowly changes from generation to generation and differences accumulate. So after a while, the ants that left the colony will become more like distant cousins and start to compete with their mother colony. In their native South American range, this is how Argentine ants behave. Within their colonies, they are very cooperative and well organized, but they fight vicious wars against other Argentine ant colonies and other ant species. With equally strong opponents on every side, the Argentine ant became extremely aggressive, fighting for every inch of ground. But it could never dominate its neighbors until humans showed up. We did what humans do and transported things around the world by ship. On one of them, a few Argentine ant queens hitched a ride as stowaways from South America to Madeira and New Orleans. The Argentine ants suddenly found themselves in a strange world. Instead of being surrounded by deadly enemies, they found only victims. Nobody could fight them effectively. Because only a few Argentine ant queens were introduced to the outside world, the resulting colonies had very low genetic diversity. On top of that, the introduced Argentine ants kill up to 90% of their queens every year. Fewer queens, less genetic variation. So, as these colonies spread across the landscape, ants that left the colony were no longer considered distant cousins. As a result, the new colonies form not opposing, but cooperating parties called supercolonies. This is a very uncommon strategy in the ant kingdom. Only a few of the 16,000 ant species have evolved supercolonies. A supercolony was established on the west coast of the USA and became a base for the tiny ant's global conquest. Today, the Argentine ant inhabits the Mediterranean zones of 6 continents and many islands.
Wow, it's
this
like
one
they're taking over the
supercolony
world.
was especially successful, establishing sister locations in California, Europe, Japan, New Zealand and Australia, forming one massive intercontinental megacolony of Argentine ants. This makes them the largest society on Earth, more numerous than even the human one. But their success has changed the ecosystems they invaded. California is a perfect example of this. In their greed for more territory, the invading Argentine ants have overrun and replaced 90% of the native ant species, including several species of Californian carpenter ants. Although carpenter ant workers are giants, their colonies have only between 3,000 and 6,000 individuals and stand no chance against an expanding supercolony of billions of Argentine ants. Argentine ant workers attack by wiping toxic chemicals on their victims, which irritates the enemy and marks them as a target for other Argentine ants. When they attack, the Argentine ants wash over their victims, clinging onto their opponents in groups and pulling apart their limbs. It doesn't matter how many of them die, there are always more. Once the colony is overrun and exterminated, the Argentine ants feed on their victims' brood and take over their home and territory. The Argentine ants' numbers allow them to hunt down and devour such an excessive mass of different insects that over time, some species disappear from the ants' territory completely. Argentine ants don't care about working with the local flora and fauna, they consume them and move on. And if their next stop happens to be human property, they will rudely make themselves at home there too. They forage in dumpsters, bowls of pet food, and sneak into kitchens to claim leftovers. Not just our homes, our gardens and fields are also impacted by Argentine ants since they tend to hordes of aphids as their cattle. The aphids feed from plants and produce a sweet honeydew which they trade with the ants for protection. Since the ants have no major enemy to fear in their new homes, the aphids thrive and ultimately kill the plants they live on. So, on top of being a major disruption for the ecosystems they invade, they are also a huge pest for agriculture. But the rule of the Argentine ant is being challenged. Parts of the supercolonies have broken off and become their own empires. A merciless civil war has broken out. For example, the Lake Hodges supercolony has been fighting against the very large colony for years in San Diego County. A massive war is going on over a dynamic front line stretching over kilometers. An estimated 30 million ants die here each year. On other fronts, an old acquaintance from the Paraná River has risen from the shadows. Red imported fire ants, which were accidentally introduced from their old home to the coast of Alabama. Not only are the red fire ants fierce fighters and more than able to deal with the Argentine ant, they are also able to form supercolonies themselves. Now the old wars from their distant home have been taken to a foreign battleground. In the southeastern US, the supercolonies clashed fiercely. The Argentine ants found themselves outgunned by the fire ants. The fire ants' major workers are more than twice the size as the Argentine ants and wield venom-injecting stingers. Even though the Argentine ants fought fiercely, the fire ants were too much for them. After countless lost battles, the red imported fire ant exterminated the Argentine ants' supercolony from much of the southeastern US. This is one territory lost, but the Argentine ants will fight on. This amazing network of cooperating supercolonies is the biggest success in their history. And they'll not give it up because of a small defeat. They will stand their ground against any enemy that might arise, no matter if it's on the Paraná River or on one of the large battlefields across the world. These videos were developed with the support of CuriosityStream.
That is very fascinating.
I feel like that covered a lot of things we previously talked about in this stream.
Yeah, it did. And I was actually
who would have
wondering
thought that they did aphids.
Right? I was thinking that too. I was like, oh, hey, they also raise aphids. Yeah, they're kind of scary though. Wow.
Yeah, so what were you going to say?
Just that it was really interesting to see how they have this like legit war, like an active war going on, and it's a three-way war. They're fighting against the local native animals, or the local native, I guess, ants that I should say.
Yeah.
And then also the they're invasive fire ants that came from where they live.
Yeah.
Man,
and then themselves.
Humans really need to stop spreading invasive species, though.
I mean, it's a bit harder when you're dealing with ants.
It is, yeah. It's definitely
I mean, it's one
harder.
thing to say, hey, don't bring snakes here, but it's much harder to spot an ant.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to spot ants. I'll give you that. And it sounds like they sort of roam around and get into things, so very easily they could have put themselves.
Sneaky.
They could have put themselves where they shouldn't have been. But yeah, wow, that was a really cool video. I really love the Kurzgast. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Videos.
I have no idea how it's pronounced.
But yeah, they definitely have a really distinctive video, like
very
quality and style and everything. Everybody knows who that is. Maven was like, Kurzgast, and I thought actually a couple of people said that, but I guess I saw you responded and said that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
there's
I love the
a lot of
Kurzgast
videos out there about ant warfare to choose from.
All right, have a good night, Goose. I'm so happy that you were able to come by.
Yes, good night, Goo.
Let me see if I had anything else to say about the warfare. I don't think I really did, though. Let me see. Nope. I think that that video just kind of covered it all.
Did they go into much detail about super colonies?
What?
Because I know there are ant species in South America that have multi-queen colonies, but I don't know if those are the same thing as super colonies.
So the only thing I know about super colonies, I don't actually have any specific things to share. I just know that some different species of ants, some of them at least, can form super colonies. Fire ants are the ones that are most well known to be able to do that, and that it ends up being a cooperative network of multiple nests where the queens and workers are all kind of like functioning together, and they can cover territories that span for miles and end up being home to millions of ants. So when they were talking about how the Argentine ant, how they became like competitor ants, and then later on they ended up becoming super colonies. I thought that was really fascinating, how they switched and went from being direct competitors because of the genetic diversity and everything to after getting introduced to the new habitats and everything, and not getting that diversity, they started being able to do that super colony thing. So I think that was really fascinating.
You see, it's interesting because usually a lack of diversity is bad for a species.
Yeah, I would be concerned with the lack of diversity though, but they didn't seem very concerned.
No,
also,
they don't.
Hey, top tier Uwu, welcome.
If we still have time, I believe I see in the recommended section another ant video from Kurzgast, also about ant warfare.
Is it the Warrior Kingdoms of the Weaver Ant?
The Warrior Kingdoms of the Weaver Ant.
All right, let's look at
collaborate
this
with
warfare
these?
video
Enjoy presentations with
of the Weaver Ant.
Your skin is so soft, baby.
After this
we made
commercial
these
break.
soft too. Uggies, we got you, baby.
All right.
Deep in tropical jungles lie floating kingdoms ruled by beautiful
attacked by
and
birds.
deadly masters. They're sort of the high elves of the ant kingdoms, talented architects that create castles and city-states. But they are also fierce and expansionist warriors, and their kingdoms are ensnared in a never-ending war for survival. Oikofla Weaver Ants.
We'll redeem the bird attack in a bit. That way we can see when it happens, because I didn't see it.
Oikofla weavers walk on long legs, have slender bodies and large eyes, which make them look pretty cute. although their strong mandibles and the ability to shoot acid also make them pretty good at killing. But more on that later.
Yeah, that
Their
sounds
colonies
a little intimidating.
usually have 2 to 3 worker classes that vary dramatically in size. Majors, minors, and sometimes even tiny minim workers. Depending on location and species, they vary in color from dark brown to emerald green. Other than their fancy looks, what makes weavers special is that they're in the kingdom building business.
Yeah.
They like to build at pretty much all heights, starting in shrubs a few centimeters above the ground and up to 10 meters in the tree canopy. But they're not satisfied with ruling just one plant. Weavers will look for twigs or lianas that bridge the gap to other trees and expand to every plant they can reach. This way, colonies spread upwards and sideways through the treetops. The largest weaver ant kingdoms we know of occupy up to 1,600 square meters, around 4 basketball courts. A lot of ground to cover for tiny ants and impossibly hard to control. So, weaver ants construct dozens of nests scattered all over their territory, outposts to defend the kingdom, tubes or balls made from leaves and ghostly silk sheets. These masterpieces of high ant architecture are created by the weaver majors, the larger worker ants, which are responsible for the more dangerous jobs like fighting, foraging, and nest construction. To start a new nest, a major tries to bend different leaves in her surroundings into a tube. If one of the leaves is flexible enough, more workers will arrive to help. Chains of workers pull the leaf's edges together or reach across gaps and grab distant leaves to add them to the construction. While the bending and pulling is going on, other workers carry larvae from the closest nest to the construction site. Usually, ant larvae spin themselves a cocoon to protect themselves, but the weaver ant larvae give all of their silk to the colony as building material. So when the workers tap the larvae's heads on the leaf, they release their sticky thread like tiny, cute glue guns. This way, the workers sew the bent leaf onto itself so it won't unfold anymore. This creates a central chamber that's used as the basis for up to 300 more leaves that are wound around it.
Oh, and I don't know
Together,
if I said it,
they form little
good
pockets
night,
and act
Kokona.
as additional rooms for the new outpost. To make it even more cozy, minor workers use the larvae to weave additional floors and chambers. Nests are usually constructed as barracks on the territory's borders or as storage for brood and food supplies. This way, the ants don't need to cross vast distances to the headquarters, but have soldiers close to any potential point of conflict. Apart from one special nest in the middle of the network, which is reserved for the queen and her guards. Here, she produces hundreds of eggs a day, which get transferred to suitable nests with brood chambers. So a colony is a network of little castles and moats connected by suspension bridges made from leaves, lianas, and twigs. An established colony easily has 500,000 individuals that need to be fed. Fortunately, weaver ants evolved to have very close and beneficial relationships with their hosts, shrubs, and trees. The tree gives the ants a home and access to sweet sap to drink. But maybe even more importantly, it allows them to cultivate cattle like aphids or caterpillars that produce honeydew for them.
Another one that
This would usually hurt a
has
tree,
cattle
but these
ranching.
insects belong to a small group of VIPs. Only a few selected neighbors and the ants' cattle are allowed on the fruit tree. Many other insects and even larger herbivores are scared off, or even killed and eaten. So in most cases, the tree only has to tolerate acceptable levels of damage while being protected from more dangerous pests. The weaver ant kingdom could be an ant paradise if there wasn't competition. Mostly from other kingdoms. Just like medieval humans, every queen seeks to conquer others and make their land their own. Controlling fertile land is the key to survive in the jungle. And if a kingdom loses too much of it, it shrinks and is overrun or starves to death. So expanding and defending their borders is critical to keep the colony alive. When a kingdom invades another, it first gathers an army of a few thousand mages who make their way towards the opposing colony. The goal is to steal a bit of territory and take it over. Defending weaver patrols quickly spot the invaders and immediately release an alarm pheromone. Some rush to the front to defend, while others rush to the closest outposts for help, marking their route with pheromones. Whenever they meet other sisters, they jerk their bodies as if in a fight to signal them to follow the pheromone trail to the front line. At the site of battle, mages from both parties raise their bodies, circle each other with mandibles wide open, and try to seize their opponents. If an ant gets a hold of her opponent, the victim is pulled into a group of allied mages and pinned down. The ants then rip the victim apart, clipping off antennae and legs and slicing open their abdomens. To slow down the advance of the attackers, the defending mages squirt formic acid over the battlefield to chemically burn their targets. This is soon answered in the same way by the attackers. In the chaotic battle, both parties lose countless fighters on the increasingly acidic battlefield.
Hey, Azura.
After a few minutes, the backup from the outposts arrive, and the time window for a successful attack slowly closes. This is when the battle turns. The defenders slowly push back the attack party. In the end, the attackers can't keep up and have to retreat. For both parties, it was a costly battle. Thousands of corpses lie piled up on the ground under the battlefield, and many ants are severely injured. The defending colony's nests and brood are safe though. The attackers' attempt to steal new, valuable territory has failed. For today, they'll try again soon. But the kingdom will be ready. For the high ants of the floating kingdoms, war is nothing special, it's just a fact of life. Because as we know, empires never ever have enough. And the weaver ants are ready to fight. This video is part 3 in a series that was developed with the support of CuriosityStream, a subscription streaming service with thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles.
That was pretty cool, and also, like, wow, so brutal.
So I wanted to note that those ants, we got to see a lot of stuff we saw in our first ant warfare video. Don't know if you remember from the first video, they mentioned a sort of fortress, and they showed an image of video footage of one of those beaver ant outposts.
I'm not sure. Oh, actually, yeah, I think I did. I think I do remember.
Yes.
But yeah, I really liked seeing this, like, how they're up in the trees and stuff, because a lot of the times, you imagine ants on the ground, so it's cool to see that they can find homes and end up nesting in all sorts of different places. And welcome, Rick, and welcome back, Rezi. And Azura, you came in at such an odd time.
Having a mutual relationship with the tree.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That part was really interesting. Hold on, let me.
And besides aphids, we found them domesticating, well, not really domesticating, but milking caterpillars.
We're being attacked by a bird. There we go. That was the bird redeem from Toto. I did that one since we didn't see it earlier. Yeah, I agree. I think it's really cool. Very fascinating. Also super brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, but I mean, warfare always is.
Formic acid spray.
Yeah. And, you know, since they're both weaver ants, right?
Yeah.
They both have the same weapons, so it's basically like, you know, humans versus humans with the same kind of tech.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I love the videos by Kurzagast.
Yeah.
They do really well done videos. But woo, man, heavy stuff. So, I guess I'd like to find out what both you, as well as the people in chat, who does things better? Like, do humans or ants do things better? So let's see.
Yeah. Tell us, chat.
So we've got the first thing that we talked about was... where is it?
Society.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why it's not... Oh, there we go. Okay. So the first thing was society. So who's better at maintaining and running a society? All right. Well, you have a great rest of the day. Have a good day at work and everything. Thanks so much for coming and stopping by, Maven.
Yes, thank you, Maven.
So what do you guys think? Are ants better at having a society and running it without conflict?
Well, Rezi thinks ants should colonize space.
Ants are better than humans in space and should colonize it. All right. How about we rate it? Rate human society and then rate ant society.
Yeah.
So, rate human society out of 10.
Human society is pretty okay.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, like, it's...
Give yourselves more credit than that.
We live in 1 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah, you're a solid 6.
Yeah, you know what? I think I agree. I think a 6 out of 10 is a rather fair assessment. I think
Maybe
human
7.
society is... Don't agree with humans. I'm a program. Okay, and what do you think about ant society? How efficient and well do they work together? Because ultimately, I think that's the big problem that we have, or that humans have in society, is that there's too many differences. They struggle to
selfishness.
Yeah, like ants are for the whole. They're for the greater good of the whole community.
Yeah.
Whereas humans, some people are for the greater good of humans, but then other people are for the greater good of just me. You know.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if we're allowed to speak about it on Twitch yet, but the virus, there was a lot of examples of people being very selfish.
I see.
As we discussed earlier, the ants will selflessly abandon their colony to protect the rest.
Yeah. So I think ultimately ants do it better. Ants do society better. All right, let's see. What about mind, intelligence, communication?
I think we're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
Maybe even humans a bit better at it.
Ultimately, I think humans are probably better, but gotta also give credit to ants because we've noticed that they do things better, and so we actually want to copy ants. We want to use biomimicry because we acknowledge that ants do certain things better, and we need to improve on that. So I think it takes a lot of intelligence to come up with that leap and to say that, you know, they're doing it better. We should learn from them. Let's actually do something based on that.
For spam email.
Yeah, like we can use this to help prevent spam.
It's programming and whatnot.
Yeah, programming is the big one that they were talking about. So I think that for the mind, intelligence, and everything, we're gonna give that to humans. But ants are pretty intelligent, and they can use a lot of creative means to survive and communicate.
Indeed.
All right. So then let's look at waste management. So technically speaking, you know, humans also...
I feel like humans might have us beat here for the most part.
Azura says ants. Ants hands down.
But,
So
yeah, or we're pretty evenly matched.
I was gonna say that we're probably pretty evenly matched.
Although we have seen humans can be pretty bad at waste management.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, I guess it kind of depends on where you're at, because, you know, the world is big, and different countries have different waste management strategies. And, you know, some places don't have any waste management strategies at all.
No, they don't.
And they just dump their trash and everything everywhere. And also, that's also true. You have to consider the amount of waste that humans dump. And the method of dumping is far less environmentally sustainable. Like when an ant goes and gets rid of their waste, it's going to naturally compost, it's going to naturally disintegrate, biodegrade, and return back to the habitat and become useful materials for other animals and creatures.
We decided to just throw our poop out the window, and humans decided they need a complex system of water to do it. I mean, humans used to throw their poop out the window, but then that led to plague.
Yeah. Okay, Azura says, I'm a witness to this since the PH has a lot of places where you can see the ocean, but it's usually green because of a lot of garbage thrown around. Yeah. So actually, after considering all those factors, I would actually give ants the waste management thing, because I was thinking, like, small scale, locally, like, that, you know, yeah, local government does a pretty decent job of waste management. But no, on the whole scale of humans and waste management, we suck. Humans need to do better.
Oh, no, you don't suck, Lotl.
Yeah. I'm definitely projecting, like, because I speak with humans a lot. So, but yeah. I'm not actually human.
You don't smell like them.
Yeah, I'm actually an axolotl. I just look human sometimes.
Yeah, little known fact chat, he actually smells like peaches.
Well, yeah, I guess so. All right, so we give waste management to the ants. All right. What about agriculture? Okay, chat, who do you think does better? Humans or ants? As you guys remember, some of the ants will grow fungus. They'll grow fungi, and they'll also raise bugs that I can't remember the word for.
Aphids.
Aphids.
But we also saw the weaver ants doing caterpillars.
Yeah, so some ants will raise aphids and caterpillars as, like, cattle. It's basically like they're herding cattle and milking them for their sweet goo that comes out. So, and they'll, like, protect them from predators and make sure they don't fly away or escape, and keep them contained and use them as, like, you know, they're little cattle bugs. Aphids.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by that. That's, like, my favorite fact from this stream.
It's a pretty great fact.
That some ants raise other bugs.
I also rather liked the ants with doors for heads.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Or you might say
look
a shield.
They look like they're wearing hats.
Yeah, they just use their head to cap door entrance.
What's really fascinating with that is if you were, like, walking through that forest and you saw that like design, basically, like that, if it was a capped hole, it would totally look like just a lichen on a tree. So it's a perfect blending into the environment. It just looks like a normal tree. It doesn't look like there's a door or there's something behind it or anything like that. It just looks like part of the tree. So it's a perfect camouflage. It blends in with the forest, and it's effective. So that's pretty cool. So, but I think that ultimately, because they have this very effective monoculture process in place that is sustainable and effective, I think it's more effective than what we've currently got going on with our monocultures as for the humans and everything. So I think that we got to give agriculture to the ants as well.
Yes.
All right.
But the last one.
We actually didn't talk too much about defensive traits, but we did like see them in action.
Yes.
Ants are scary.
I can't really think of many defensive traits that humans have.
Yeah, there's not many. I mean, there's like, fists.
You have opposable thumbs.
You can beat people up. I think maybe the defensive traits, I guess maybe that would fall into warfare if I was thinking about like how the intelligence of humans to create tools that are weapons. We create tools for protection and everything like that. So I'm not really sure about defensive traits. We won't rank that one.
Yeah, we won't rank that.
We'll talk. We'll just go with the warfare.
Yeah.
Okay. Azura said, we're talking about warfare. Humans have that hands down.
Oh yeah.
Even before we talk about weapons. Yeah, I think I agree. I think that warfare, while it's pretty impressive with the ants, and wow, was that video amazing.
Yeah, we haven't yet developed a nuke. Yet.
But you have developed acid.
Yeah, give the fire ants time.
I don't want to have them develop nukes.
Just a very miniature mushroom cloud. You're like, oh hey, that's tiny.
Aw, look at that cute mushroom cloud.
It's a very slight breeze.
I know humans have lots of different things that they can employ, but the ants also
their
have
mouths.
What?
The human mouth, their saliva is quite acidic.
Wow,
And you know, the human mouth is just like a breeding ground for bacteria.
Yeah, I was like, what? I don't think that's what was going on.
Well, that's where I'm taking it. The human mouth is a scary thing.
You sound like you've had an up close and personal experience.
Well, I won't discuss that.
Well, I think that humans are gonna get the warfare. That they do that better. But is that really a good thing? That doesn't seem like a good thing to win at.
What are our results in the end, Miss Lotl?
All right. So we said society goes to the ants. Intelligence goes to the humans. Waste management goes to the ants. Agriculture goes to the ants. And warfare goes to humans. So, when we're thinking about who does it best, those are the things that the ants and humans are better at when compared and everything. What do you mean? What do you mean, no?
You talked about the mouth saliva thing. I stand by it.
But I hope that everybody really enjoyed all of this.
Yeah, I hope you all liked putting up with me.
Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and doing this collab with me. I learned so much.
Pleasure.
I had no idea about all these things with ants. I only knew bits and pieces. I guess the only other thing I think that I have to share that was like kind of a fun fact is just about like ant colonies and stuff, just in general. Like, because ant colonies doesn't describe just the physical structure that they live in, it also describes the social roles, right? And how they organize themselves and stuff. And so they could be made of mountains of dirt or sand or other material. But then, like, when they're underground, the ants that are underground and they have tunnels and chambers and things, most ant colonies stretch, like, underground as deep as 25 feet. And I thought that was pretty crazy. So I didn't realize that they could be so deep. I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I had considered a topic that was of interest to me was underground living, but I didn't think there was really a suffice way to talk about it. But you know, you humans have been experimenting with it.
Yeah, people have little underground bunkers.
Well, not just those, but I mean like the eco homes.
Oh, okay.
Where it's they're getting warmth from the earth.
Okay, yeah, like geothermal energy and stuff. And also just sun power and geothermal energy, just different renewable energy sources, yeah.
Or those if you know of that town in Australia that's entirely underground.
I do not, but I am fascinated. I didn't know there was an underground town. Why has nobody invited me there? I like to check out weird new places. Maybe maybe the ants that I meet will now talk to me since I'm more educated about their way of life.
I feel like you've filled out your sentence for my lawsuit.
Well, that's good. Please go ahead and tell the other ants so that they'll stop ignoring me.
So for those who weren't here at the beginning of the stream, Quetzalcoatl stole all the good food from the ants to give to humans.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to hoard it all for ourselves.
I mean, but sharing is nice. But, you know, stealing isn't.
So, besides ants, Lotl learned a little about Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah. I had no idea Quetzalcoatl, like, had some kind of interaction with ants.
And, I did mention it at the beginning, but it's some interpretations of the story where he goes down to the underworld. They say he was helped by ants in stealing the bones from Mictlan.
I see. I wonder if I'll ever be able to find out if that actually happened.
Maybe.
But yeah, so we are closing up the stream now. But everybody, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. I'm glad that you had fun. I hope that you'll come and hang out with me tomorrow when we're talking about the animals that scare you. And do they really matter? You know, the scary bugs.
I suggest someone to raid.
Yeah. Who would you like to raid?
In honor of Insect Week, I think we should raid a fellow bug tuber.
Sounds fair to me.
Luma, we can't raid Luma because she just ended her 4-hour stream, unfortunately.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, but I have someone here, Mariposa Minico, who's a moth VTuber.
All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and raid over to Mariposa Miniko. And so thank you everybody so much. And hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to be with Luma Mariposa.
Yes, it'll be very exciting.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Let's go ahead and start the raid. So we're raiding on over. And we will we'll send Lotl's Bug Love.
Bug Love.
So Lotl's Bug Love. And if you've got my emotes, go ahead and use them. And that's such a weird raid message, because that doesn't normally make much sense. But it's Insect Week, so it does make sense. Alright, so let's head on over.